On today's show, the Cavs get a win in Miami. Donovan Mitchell was awesome. Evan Mobley keeps looking better. And outside of that third quarter, the defense was pretty good. We'll talk about all that and so much more on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, 92.3 The Fan, and a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. A proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show, of course, brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. The Cleveland Cavaliers 126-106 winners over the Miami Heat on Wednesday night in Miami. If you're watching this video, I'm in Miami. I am in a random room underneath the Kaseya Center. I don't know what this room's purpose is. There's some cool artwork on the wall. There's a Larry O'Brien trophy that you just can't see. It's out of the frame, but that is where I'm at. That's why my background looks a little bit different. If there is any background noise, it's because work is being done in the arena that I have no control over. So I apologize for that. But watch this game in person, and I was really impressed for the most part with what the Cavs did. And I've talked a bunch this year about how Donovan Mitchell has had a great sense of the moment, right? Because he's not always been the guy that's had to put on the cape and go out and score 35 points or go have these 40-point offensive outbursts. He's been, I think, a really great leader. I think he's been a really great player this year, but he's done it in different ways than what we're used to seeing Donovan Mitchell do, right? Like, we are so accustomed to Donovan Mitchell going out and just blowing teams away with how well he can score the basketball. And on Wednesday night, that's what he did. He had 34 points, and I thought it was important that he really take on a scoring role because Darius Garland didn't play in this game. He was out with a rest designation. The Cavs, and of course, he's not the only one out. Sam Merrill had an illness, so he did not play after being listed as questionable. Karis LeVert, we know, is out. Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, all those guys are still out. So really, the Cavs were down 5 rotation players in this game. And yeah, the Miami Heat, not the best team in the world right now. They're going through a whole mess of problems on their own that we don't need to talk about. But the Cavs still did go out and beat a solid team by 20 points in a game they never trailed in on the road in a place they historically never win with only 10 players available. And that, to me, I think Donovan Mitchell is the guy that deserves a lot of credit for this because he is the one that I look at as the leader of this team. And of course, he had help. He didn't do it all by himself. Going to talk about Evan Mobley coming up in a little bit. Going to talk about Jerome too. But Donovan knew he had a sense of the moment on Wednesday night that the Cavs needed him to go out and they needed him to be a scoring threat. They needed him to be the guy that can say, hey, you know what? Darius not playing tonight. Karis LeVert's still out. We're a little short on shooting in some spots. No Dean Wade, no Isaac Okoro. The Cavs needed the scoring output from him, and he knew that. And he's done that all year, where he has known, okay, this is maybe the night where Donovan needs to be more of a distributor, and he's understood that, and he's done that. Or maybe this needs to be the night where he needs to go grab a couple of extra rebounds because the Cavs don't have a ton of size, and he's gone out, and he's done that. And tonight was the night where the Cavs needed him to go out and score. I don't know that he necessarily needed to score 30-plus points because the Cavs had this game under control for the most part all game long. But I think that everyone could sense that they needed a little bit more scoring punch from Donovan Mitchell in this one. And I think that he's done a really great job of that. That is one of the things that I think makes him an all-star is that, yeah, maybe his counting stats aren't what they have been in the past. That doesn't mean he's having a less impressive season than really ever before. I think you could make the case that this is the most impressive season Donovan Mitchell has ever had because he's been a star player in different ways than what we're used to seeing. Like, he was, without question, the best player on the floor Wednesday night against Miami. Now, he's the best player on the floor oftentimes. There are sometimes it's Evan Mobley. There are sometimes it's Darius Garland. There are sometimes it's somebody from the other team. But Donovan Mitchell make no mistake about it, was the best player in this game. He had everything working. And one of the things Kenny Atkinson mentioned after the game when I asked him about Donovan is that what stood out to him is, there's all the cool stuff that he can do on the perimeter. There's the pull 3-pointers, stuff like that. But the way Donovan was able to get downhill, the way he was able to get to the rim, like that is an important part of this Cavs offense. When they're really going, when they're really clicking on all cylinders offensively, Donovan is able to get to the rim the way he was on Wednesday night against Miami. I thought he had a great game. And this was really just continuing what I think has been a pretty good stretch for Donovan Mitchell as of lately. He scored 34 points was his final number. He has had several 30-point games, it feels like, in the back half of this month. Think back to that game the Cavs played in Indiana a couple of weeks ago at this point. And that was Donovan's, I believe, first 30-point game since the game in Denver right around Christmas. And it was just his third 30-point game since the start of December, because he had that one against the Boston Celtics at the start of the month of December, had the one against Denver, and then didn't have another one until they played in Indiana. Well, he's done it a lot lately. And I think he's done it a lot lately because the Cavs have been beat up, and they've had several guys that have been missing from the rotation. They've had several guys that have been unavailable, and they've needed a little bit more of a scoring punch. And I also think that he can sense too that this team is one that, let's face it, I think has been a little bit tired. They've been in a rough stretch of their schedule where they're in the midst of 5 games in 7 nights. And then this ends. And then starting next Tuesday, they have another stretch of 5 games in 7 nights. So I do think that he can sense right now that this team needs him a little bit more than maybe they've needed him at times. And I think that every time that's the case with Donovan, he shows up and he shows out. He did exactly that on Wednesday in Miami. He was terrific. Everything worked for him. Getting to the rim, shot the ball well from the outside. It was the quintessential Donovan Mitchell offensive performance. Now, of course, Donovan wasn't the only one that had things working. I thought Evan Mobley looked better. I don't think Evan Mobley looks like the peak version of Evan Mobley that we're so used to seeing this year, right? Where everything's working from him. I think right now, Evan's shot looks a little bit flat, but I do think that Wednesday night was the most aggressive we've seen him since he returned from that calf injury that cost him a handful of games. And I do think that he was able to get to the basket a little bit more. I thought he outplayed Bam Adebayo. I know there was, one play in particular where Bam really got the best of him and sort of stonewalled him on the block. But other than that, I thought Evan Mobley was better. He had 22 points. He had 15 rebounds. He was awesome in this game. The jumper is not quite there yet, but with how much we've seen that jumper be good this year, I don't think that should be some concern. And that's another thing I did ask Kenny Atkinson about after the game was just where do you think Evan is? Because he is obviously a huge part of this team. He's a great player on this team. I do believe today he's going to be named an Eastern Conference All-Star reserved. I think Darius Garland will too. Don't think Jarrett Allen will, but I think that those two guys will be off to San Francisco as an All-Star. And we've seen so much from him on the outside. And even he mentioned when I asked him after the game, it's just the 3 ball is not back yet. But I have no doubts it's going to get there because we've seen him be really good at it. It's not like the 40% shooting from beyond the arc that he's put up this year is on super small volume. Now, he's not some high volume 3-point shooter, of course, but per 36 minutes, he's doubled his volume from what it was last year beyond the arc to what it is now. Really, per 36 minutes, the first 3 years of his career were all the same. It was 1.4 a game or 1.4 3-point attempts per 36 minutes. And this year it's, around 3. It is more than doubled what it was. And he's shooting it at a higher clip in terms of percentage than he ever has before. And I have no reason to believe that's not going to come back, right? I do think that as he gets more lift in that shot, I think it looks a little flat. And with it being a calf injury that he was dealing with, as he works his way back, I think that'll return. I don't think that this is some long-term cause for concern, but overall, I thought he looked really, really good against Miami. I thought he was awesome defensively. I thought he was awesome and aggressive offensively. That's what the Cavs need from him. They need him to be an aggressive offensive player, especially on nights when the 3-point shot for him isn't something that's falling, right? It's really easy to look at Evan Mobley when he takes, and his volume from 3 has not been up since he came back from injury. I mean, on Wednesday night against Miami, Mobley took 15 shots in the game. Only 2 of them were 3s. He missed both of them, obviously, but only 2 of them were 3-pointers. And I think that volume he'll get back to shooting 4 or 5 a game when he feels like his shot is back, but went 10 of 15 from the field. Like, he was really, really impressive in this game. And I thought the Cavs needed him too. Like, that's another thing. I can talk about Donovan Mitchell stepping up when the team needs him, when they're shorthanded, when he can sense that moment. I thought it was important that Evan Mobley did this too, because I do think with Jared Allen, with he's played very, very well this season. I don't think he's going to be an all-star, but he's also played in every game. And I think Jared Allen probably needs about a week off right now. I don't anticipate that happening for him until the all-star break, but I do think in these moments, especially with it being at the front end of a back-to-back, I thought it was really important that Evan Mobley gave them as strong of a performance as he was able to. Like, that was something that certainly impressed me tonight from Evan, because, he is one of their star players and he needs to play like one of their star players. And he did just that on Wednesday night here in Miami. I want to talk about the defense. Monday night against Detroit, the defense was awesome. The Cavs played 36 minutes of great defense on Wednesday night, and they played 12 minutes of terrible defense. We'll do that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by TurboTax. This is a message from Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back. And then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59, it's here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss. Oh yeah, betting on the coin toss. FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, well, that's just icing on the cake. Download the FanDuel app today or head to FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5. And if you win, you will score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com, FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. If you're listening to the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else, do me a favor, slide at 5 stars and make sure you are subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed too. Click that subscribe button, tell a friend to do the same. And also, Locked On Cavs now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Cavs daily newsletter, your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now, LockedOnDaily.com. That is LockedOnDaily.com. Start your day with the all-new free Locked On Cavs newsletter. The Cavs, I thought, played really good defense for the most part on Wednesday night. Now, I have to say for the most part, because, of course, as I look at the box score right now, Miami in the first quarter scored 21 points. Miami in the second quarter scored 20 points. That is a great half of defensive basketball. The Cavs were fantastic in the first half. Miami in the third quarter, 43 points. The Heat hit 8 3-pointers in the third quarter. It was just a disaster. I thought that in quarters 1, 2, and 4, the Cavs did a terrific job taking away the 3-point opportunity from Miami. I thought the threes they were taking in those quarters were contested. I thought they did a great job in those quarters on guys like Tyler Hero, on guys like Duncan Robinson, on guys like Terry Rozier. I thought the Cavs overall played a really strong defensive game. Now, they just didn't do it for the full game. They got away with it because in the third quarter, they were also really good offensively. I mean, you look at that quarter, if you are going to give up 43 points, the way they gave up 43 points, one, you would like to do it with a bit of a cushion, the way that Cavs did have a significant cushion going into that. I mean, they were up big at halftime, where I believe it was 59-41 at halftime or something along those lines. But then in the third quarter, to allow Miami to go 8 of 15 on threes, really tough. Tyler Hero had 11 points in that quarter. Haywood Highsmith had 10 points in that quarter. It was just Terry Rozier had 8 points in that quarter. Like, it was a train wreck for the Cavs defensively. But what I think is the bright side of this game is obviously not that quarter defensively, right? But the fact that they didn't let it snowball, where I think in the previous few weeks, we've seen the Cavs maybe get off to some good defensive starts. They've had a few good defensive first quarters, or maybe even a few, like the starters playing their first shift has been good defensively. And then from there, something will go wrong, and then it'll snowball and it'll get worse and worse and worse. And that's how they lost, 5 out of 9 games or 4 out of 9 games, whatever it was. That's how that happened, because on the defensive end of the floor, that's what it would be. And then they'd be playing catch up offensively. And I'm not going to sit here and say the Cavs played the best offensive game of the season. I will say the fact that they can score 126 points on a playoff caliber team, I think it's fair to call the Miami Heat. I mean, they're 23-23 right now. Score 126 points on that team. By the way, you're missing 5 rotation players. Pretty impressive offensive night. Not the best offensive night, but given the circumstances, pretty impressive. But holding Miami to 106 points, despite the fact that they scored like 40-ish% of their points in one quarter, with that 43 spot in the third quarter. Like, I do think that the fact they came back from allowing 43 points in that third quarter to, they went into the fourth quarter only up by 10. Miami outscored them by 8 points in that quarter. So they went from, an 18-point lead at halftime to a 10-point lead going into the third quarter. Things could have gotten dicey. And this gets back to the Donovan Mitchell aspect of things. Like, the Cavs then opened up the fourth quarter on a 7-2 run, and Miami had to call a timeout, and the game really never got close after that. But part of the reason why it never got close after that is Miami only scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. What the Cavs did in the third quarter defensively, they put a stop to it. They didn't let it snowball. They didn't let it become, okay, here we are again. We're just not going to play good defense. That's not what they let happen. And I think it's really important that, Monday's game against Detroit thought was a really impressive defensive effort. And obviously Miami and Detroit are two very different teams. The way they run offenses differently, they look much different on that end of the floor. So there were some adjustments that the Cavs had to make. And I thought we saw much less zone in this game tonight from the Cavs too. But I think that the fact that they were able to stop the bleeding, if you will, where in the past, I don't know that they do that, right? Like, think back to the OKC game that they lost, where they got off to a good start on both ends of the floor. And then one thing led to another defensively, and it just snowballed, and they were never able to get things under control. And I do think it's a sign of a good team. And I think it's a sign that this defense has, I don't want to say turn a corner, but at least turn things around from what they were, right? It's hard to be much worse than falling to 28th in the NBA for the month of January at one point before Monday's game against Detroit, but they're not that defense. That's not who they've been. They have been, I think it's fair to say, very inconsistent this year on that end of the floor, but they're not the third worst defense in basketball. Right? Like, I think we can all agree there that they're better than that. And I thought that this was another good step in the right direction, right? I talk about how they respond to things all the time, and they have responded really well to those couple of days that they had off after the second loss to Houston, where they gave up 135 points, which was after giving up 130 plus points to the Philadelphia 76ers the night before. They responded defensively. And I said on yesterday's show, or maybe it was on Tuesday's show, that you can't expect the Cavs to hold teams to 91 points all the time, the way they did the Detroit Pistons on Monday night. And you can't do that. That still rings true. But then to follow that up by allowing only 106 points in a game where you allowed 43 points in a quarter, like, that to me is big time stuff. Like, that to me is responding the right way. That to me is the defense is getting better. And of course, Evan Mobley being back on the floor is a big boost to this defense, but they're doing this without a ton of great perimeter defenders. I will say I thought Jalen Tyson did a good job defensively. He got the start with everybody else out. He was the one that was plugged into the starting lineup at that small forward spot. He had to defend Tyler Hero for much of the night. Obviously, Tyler had a really good third quarter, as I made mention of, but it's not like Tyler Hero, who somebody that could be an all-star, he could be named an all-star today, finished with 22 points. He was only 4 of 10 from 3. And he's been one of the best three-point shooters. I thought they made things really tough on him. He was 9 of 20 overall. So 22 points on 20 shots, you'll take that. He was not sent to the free throw line. Like, he attempted one free throw. It was on a technical foul. I think it was a defensive 3 seconds call that sent him to the free throw line. So it's not as if he was, fouled or they were overly physical and it cost them, because he was able to go to the line and rack up points that way. So I thought overall they did a really, really good job on him. And I think Jalen Tyson deserves credit. I think Evan Mobley deserves credit for how he defended. Just overall, I thought this was a really strong team effort defensively. I thought Donovan Mitchell made some nice plays defensively. I thought Max Strus did a good job. The third quarter was brutal. There's no way around that. But the other 3 quarters were awesome. And if you're going to talk about that third quarter where the Cavs gave up a huge number, you have to talk about the other 3 quarters where they gave up 22 points or less in each of the other 3, because that is dominant defense. They had a bad quarter, but the rest of the time they were dominant. Ty Jerome, I don't want to call him dominant, but he was really good in this game. Again, we're going to talk about that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show brought to you by Game Time. So I was at the Cavs game in Miami on Wednesday night. Of course, I didn't get a ticket, but my fiance and her family, well, they went to the game as well. How did they get in the building? They, of course, opened up that Game Time app. They downloaded it. Well, they didn't download it. They already had it, but they used code LOCKEDONNBA and they got $20 off that first purchase. And you can do the same. Whether you want to go to a game in Cleveland, Cavs play the Hawks tonight. Maybe you want to go check that out. Maybe just maybe you want to go to the Super Bowl. I don't know. Maybe you do. If you do, $20 off by using code LOCKEDONNBA at Game Time. And plus, the thing that Game Time's got going on, and as I was helping my fiance look for tickets, I'm like, you got to go to Game Time Picks. Like, you have to use that feature on the Game Time app, because that's where you're going to find the best deals. I don't want you searching through every single ticket available. I want you to go to Game Time Picks, because they've got the best deals, the best prices, the best seats, all of it. They filter out the fluff. They do exactly what you want in a ticketing app. That's what Game Time does. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA. That is LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. If you're watching the show on YouTube, I hope you like my lack of a background today, because I'm, again, in Miami. I'm in a random room in this arena talking to you right now. But hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. Cavs, of course, 126-106 winners over the Miami Heat. And Ty Jerome had another really good night for the Cavs. He finished 9 of 18, was just 2 of 8 on 3. So really a lot of the shots that he missed were ones beyond the arc. But he had 20 points again, had 7 assists, had just 2 turnovers. I thought he was really good. And this has been a trend. Not that Ty Jerome has been good, because that has been pretty much the whole season. He didn't have the best month of December, but in January, he's been awesome. In November and October, he was outstanding. In January, he's been really good, and we'll see what February holds. And there haven't been many games where this has happened, because on Wednesday night, Darius Garland missed a game for just the second time this season. Donovan Mitchell, I believe, has only missed 2 or 3 games this year as well. So this isn't a very big sample size. But when one of those guys is out, Ty Jerome has done a great job stepping up and filling that role. Now, I don't think that I thought it was smart for Kenny Atkinson to not start Ty on Wednesday night, not because Ty doesn't deserve it, but when you look at things, it's when you look at how the 10 available players they have. So, yeah, you've got Craig Porter Jr., who I thought played really, really well, but I also think that you would rather have Ty be the one that is running the second unit and able to play more of those bench minutes with some of the other reserve players that he's used to playing with. And I think it's smart, if you can, as a head coach, to keep a player in his role. Like, I do like elevating Jalen Tyson from somebody who right now is sort of on the fringe of the rotation. I do think that his minutes are going to start going up a little bit as they want to kind of monitor minutes for other guys, and with all the injuries on the perimeter the Cavs are dealing with. But moving him into the starting lineup and keeping Ty in the role that he's been comfortable in, I think is a really good thing. And I like that Kenny Atkinson did that. I thought it was the right move for this team. I thought it was the right move for Jalen. I thought it was the right move for Ty. But Ty was really good. And he got into the paint so well. And some of the floaters that he took were not even in the paint. Like, there was the one on the left wing that looked super awkward that just went down, because some nights you've got it going on, and Ty Jerome had it going on. And in the last week or so, he's played awesome. The second game against Houston was not great, but that was second of a back-to-back after an outstanding game in Philly against the Sixers. I thought he played really well against Detroit on Monday. Obviously, he played great here in Miami on Wednesday. So Ty Jerome's been really, really good. If Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland misses any amount of time, whether it's a game for rest, whether there's some bumps and bruises, stuff like that, Ty is more than capable. And he's done nothing but prove that all season long. And Wednesday night was just another example of that. And I thought Craig Porter Jr. was really good in this game too. What I do think he brings to the table that is helpful for this team is the fact that he can go out and rebound. Like, he had 4 rebounds off the bench, and that's not a big number, but for a point guard, that's helpful. And especially on a team that, even when fully healthy, doesn't have a plethora of really good rebounding wings, having guards that can rebound the way that someone like Craig Porter Jr. can, even if he's not part of the regular rotation, he's not somebody that, if the Cavs are healthy, I view is going to get playoff minutes. But having him be able to go out, be able to rebound, be able to do a lot of the dirty work, I thought he played really, really well. And I think he deserves credit. Everyone that played in this game, for the most part, played really, really well. George Niang had another really good night. He's been stringing together some good nights. He had 15 points, hit 3 threes. He had a beautiful cut to the basket, too, that Donovan Mitchell found him on with what was Donovan's best assist of the night. Like, he had 6 assists. I think that the scoring role that he took on was the proper role for him to take on. But that assist to George Niang was by far the best pass he threw. At least that's what I thought in this one. But the Cavs played really well on Wednesday night. They led wire to wire. The game was in control for the vast majority of it. I mean, when you win a game the way the Cavs won this game, where they led this game, the 48 minutes in this game, they led 47 minutes and 2 seconds of them. And I know that people are going to be upset because the defense in the third quarter wasn't great. But they went on the road to a place that they historically really struggle in, and they led for 47 minutes and 2 seconds. That's pretty good. In a game they never trailed. So I think that Cavs fans should be very, very happy with how this one turned out. They are back in action tonight, taking on the Atlanta Hawks back in Cleveland. It is a tough back-to-back, not because the Hawks are great. They're okay. Not having Jalen Johnson for them, I think, does change how they look. I think it definitely changes how they match up with the Cavs. But this is going to be a tough game because this is a tough back-to-back. Playing in Miami one night, especially with a 7:30 start, and then playing in Cleveland the next night, that's not an easy thing to do. So I'm very interested to see how this Cavs team handles it. I'm interested to see who is available. It is a nationally televised game, but I'm interested to see who is available if they want to take maybe the rest route with a guy or two, the way they did with Darius Garland on Wednesday night. I don't know. We will have to find out on Thursday, but that'll be a good game. And I will have you, of course, covered right here on Locked On Cavs. So again, thank you for making this your first listen today. Thank you for making it your first listen every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. And I will talk to you on Friday.